Hey YouTube, what's going on? It is Bobby C back here again with another custom handgun quick look, and today we are looking at my stainless steel Chuck Rogers 9mm 38 Super switch barrel gun. It's been a while since I've posted a video. I've just been extremely busy with family stuff and kid stuff and just running around. Work's been really busy, so just wanted to take a moment and now that the weather's getting better, and just give you guys a quick peek at the newest pistol that I have, and it's one that I really love. So first and foremost, obviously on a Colt base, this is a full house Chuck gun, and if you guys remember, a while back I did post a stainless steel 9mm gun that was somewhat plain Jane. This is the same firearm. I got Chuck to agree to do some minor work on that gun, and then with a little bit more conversation, Chuck allowed me to get some additional work or more work than what was originally talked about. So I'm really thankful and grateful for that. So I guess, like always on my quick views or my quick looks, we will quickly talk about the work that Chuck did to this firearm, and we can kind of go over all the features and stuff like that. So as always, we'll start up front. You guys will see that this gun features Chuck's signature Rogers bob nose. I absolutely love that feature. It really does aid in holstering and takes down a ton of snag points with those traditional, sharper lines that a 1911 has. And Chuck has figured out a way and mastered the entire, melting or dehorning. And, I have to say that, with Chuck's work, he not only dehorns, but he somehow manages to, keep the lines even when there might not necessarily be lines, which that's a skill all in itself. So as mentioned, bob nose front end, you can see that we have a national match style bushing with a crowned and flush cut barrel, and then some golf balling on the plug. Chuck did a amazing job with his carry bevel all the way around this firearm. He tri-topped it, so as you can kind of see from the front end of this firearm, you got the tri-top on the slide, which is one of my favorite things. It just makes the gun feel and look just a tad different than what you traditionally get in 1911. And as of late, the majority of 1911s that I've gotten have been tri-topped, so I'm glad to add this one into that group. Working back from the bob nose, we have a ball cut as well as a high power cut or a press check cut that matches up perfectly with the Colt serrations. We have here I would call that a medium bevel on the bottom of the slide, and then a French border that you'll see kind of running along the top of the slide where the tri-top meets the flat. Obviously, like I mentioned, we have Chuck's carry bevel with some dehorning. Again, Chuck is able to keep that line and that edge. However, there is absolutely no sharpness to that. More dehorning on the trigger guard. That is extremely smooth. There are no snag points whatsoever. For some cosmetics, I had Chuck golf ball the underside of the trigger guard right where Chuck's high cut the frame, and if you look at that, Chuck does an amazing job when high cutting and then blending, so it almost looks stock. You'll notice some folks who do this high cut where there's a pronounced lip here. There's nothing wrong with that. Jeremy Reed's work comes to mind. Alchemy comes to mind, where you have a very pronounced high cut and you can see that line. While both of them do a good job transitioning and making it look really nice, Chuck's work is blended to a point where, again, you're not going to get any sharp edges right in here. If we look at Chuck's mag release, what you will see is it is angled. You can see that right there with some golf balling, and that just aids in ergonomics in terms of mag release and just kind of meeting your thumb where it needs to. Chuck has beveled and dehorned the slide stop and went ahead and golf balled the rear ledge of the slide stop as well to match all the rest of the golf balls on this firearm. Which brings me to the front strap. Again, we have Chuck's traditional signature golf balling that is flawlessly executed. Just absolutely fantastic. Masterful job of machining by him. On the underside, we have a Chen Gen 2 magwell here, where the frame is cut back, the magwell is added so that there is no additional length added to the frame, and then blended and blended back to where the mainspring housing is. And as you can see, you can barely see a line, but Chuck did a fantastic job there as well. Absolutely flawless blending and execution of a Chen Gen 2 magwell. Absolutely love it. I haven't always been the biggest fan of magwells, but when it comes to the Chen Gen 2 or even the Chen shooter install, those really work, and in my opinion, they're far better than any of the other magwells on the market. Working our way up in terms of the slide on the left side of the firearm, you'll see the Colt serrations, and then Chuck recut those and put ball cuts here. These are sharp, however, there's no snag point there. They serve their function, and they're going to work as needed. Chuck did an amazing job re-welding up the original front dovetail and then installing a seamlessly blended front sight. Obviously, that's Chuck's white ball front sight, which he's made famous. And then on that flat top, we have the golf ball arrow pattern. Some people call the cuts here, and then up front, lightning cuts or fuller cuts. These just aid in lightening up the firearm just a little bit. But in my opinion, the bigger function or the bigger added benefit to those fuller cuts or lightning cuts is when you throw the firearm up, they just force your eye to the center of the firearm, which allows you to really pick up that white ball quickly. Some people don't understand that, or if they haven't had a firearm from Rogers, they wouldn't quite understand how every little piece of work, although it looks cool, also aids in functionality, in reliability, as well as speed and just everyday use, training, whatever you want to call it. So Chuck just does such a great job of thinking, beyond the traditional ergonomics as well as cosmetics of a firearm to make it all work properly. When I asked Chuck about the semi-flat trigger or semi-curved trigger, I guess you can call it either one, whatever you want. Traditionally, I have had an issue with the short triggers being too short, where my trigger finger goes too far past the actual physical trigger, and on a medium, it's just a little bit too long, where I can start having some issues with pushing or pulling on the firearm when concentrating on long range, and it really shows quickly. So when Chuck and I talked, he suggested making a custom trigger specifically for my hand. And you know, that's one thing that I will say about Chuck and his custom work. He is actively trying to make the perfect firearm for the individual he's building for. So when I grab the gun, I instantly feel the high cut on the frame under the trigger guard. I can tell the work that he's done blending up into the rear of the frame and the grip safety. And then when I put my finger in, you can see just right there how perfectly my finger sits at that first joint, which is where I prefer to shoot. I'm not a put your pad on the face of the trigger and squeeze. I'm a get your finger in and meet the first joint at the trigger. I personally believe that literally you're getting a straight line pullback versus too much in, you're going to have issues, and not enough in, you can start having the muzzle of the gun move based on the trigger not being the right size for your finger or for your grip. So an amazing suggestion from Chuck, and that works perfect. He did the same for the rear thumb safety for me. As you can see, it's lowered, so it's under the plunger tube. Obviously Chuck did his golf balling on there, but when I'm gripping the firearm, my thumb typically stays above the thumb safety. I'm not an under the thumb safety grip guy. So, you know, for me, when the thumb safety becomes too bulky, it can start really digging into the side of my knuckle on my thumb. So Chuck and I discussed that. He was able to really custom contour that back, and when we feel that engagement, it's absolutely perfect. So you can kind of see how easily that is for me to manipulate. Not all thumb safeties are like that for me. I really couldn't be happier with the trigger design and the thumb safety design contoured for my specific hand. And that took Chuck and I a little while to talk through and work through, but the execution from Chuck on that was absolutely flawless, and absolutely I'm extremely happy with the way that came out. There's been some requests that I do some dry firing when I do these overviews, and that's totally fine. I don't necessarily think that the dry fire really can be felt, or you don't really get the impact of the trigger work that Chuck's done through a video. But at the same time, you will see this firearm does not have any roll. There's just a small amount of take up there, which is perfect. And then as I start slowly squeezing and feeling for the trigger, and really feeling what that feels like, we're gonna break just over 3.5 pounds. And again, there is no roll or creep at all in this. So I'm slowly squeezing, and you'll start to see the break. So again, the reset on it, just because I'm holding the camera with one hand, I can't really demonstrate the reset of the trigger, but it's absolutely fantastic. Coming to the rear of the firearm, you will see that Chuck golf balled the grip safety. He wrapped the golf balls to the frame on, the what would be called the mainspring. That's part of the Chen magwell. We have a match grade slide to frame fit. It's absolutely perfect. Chuck fit 5 extractors or so for this gun. I have extractor for 9mm, 38 Super, 38 Super Comp, and Chuck's kind of looking out for the shooter in everybody when he's building guns. He understands that over time with heavy use that you're going to get extractors that break. So he just fits, he fits a bunch of them for you right up front, which, you gotta love that. Obviously we have a tier 1 rear sight. In my opinion, the absolute best rear sight that is out there. Chuck makes these from scratch, and we have a U-notch on that rear sight. And one thing I did ask Chuck was to close up that rear gap just a little bit and close up that front sight just a little bit, so it's not as combat forward as accuracy forward. But that's just what my preference is. And again, just kind of like I mentioned earlier, when you're talking about Chuck and you're talking about custom firearms, really he covers all bases. He checks all boxes. There is no standard in terms of this is the only thing he does or what he does. He can essentially do anything that you want. Going to the ejection port side, we obviously have all those same things. You'll see a chamfer here, just a nice touch, aids in takedown, very, very nice. Can't say enough about it. You will see we have a CART National Match 9mm barrel, and I just did switch this back to 9mm because I had it set in 38 Super, and that's what I was shooting it for. For the most part, I cleaned it up. I swapped back to 9 just because I have a lot more 9mm ammo, but 38 Super is absolutely my absolute favorite round out there. Chuck did give me some extra springs for this if I want to shoot some 38 Super Comp Major, which I have some Ely ammunition that it packs a punch. So a couple different springs, although the spring that I have in it works fine with everything. It does give you the ability to tweak and tailor around to the firearm, which is great. You will see that Chuck did flute the barrel here and then filled it with black Cerakote. That was by request, and it just looks absolutely phenomenal. We have the black grips. I asked for the black trigger. I forgot to mention, but he did do the golf balling on the front face of the trigger. And then again, by request, the bushing and the plug are also black Cerakote, which I think just kind of sets it off, gives it a little bit of a different look. There was a 45 that was done probably around 2013 that a buddy of mine used to own, and now another friend of mine owns. And although it's not as radical in terms of all the work done, it's a gorgeous gun, and it looks very similar in terms of the overall appearance outside of the fuller cuts and the tri-top. And maybe one day that firearm will join my collection as big brother to this one. I will show you the let's see if I can manipulate this and lock the slide back really quickly. There we go. Sorry about that. Chuck did also flute the entire barrel all the way around. Obviously that requires a ton of machine work and a ton of understanding how to fixture and use a mill. And then he Cerakoted it and took the Cerakote off the high spots of the firearm. Outside of that, there's not a ton left for me to talk about. Obviously, all the goodies that Rogers work is known for in terms of reliability. I was hammering this thing at the 1911 Addicts meetup, and let several other folks shoot this firearm, both in 9mm and 38 Super. Did not matter what mags I used, did not matter what ammo I used. This thing was as reliable as anything that I own. So again, just an absolutely showstopper of a pistol. it's really special. So couldn't be more thankful that Chuck allowed me to give him a real wish list of items that, you know, I wanted to make this firearm mine. You know, just really great guy and extremely talented for the style of gun that he builds and kind of what he does. Second to none, tip of the spear, in my opinion, and just, you know, absolutely lovely. So thank you, Chuck. Really appreciate it again. And man, you really made me happy with this. It's just a phenomenal blaster. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope to catch you on the next one. As always, you know, shoot straight, and we'll talk to you soon. Be good, guys.